Hey, let's build a hoop house. Do you want to build a hoop house? Let me show you how I did mine. So the first step in building a hoop house is acquiring the materials you need to build the hoop house. You can just buy a brand new hoop house, but I don't like to do that. I buy all my materials pretty much on Craigslist. I live in Massachusetts, which is in the New England area, and when I look on Craigslist in my region, there's pretty much always somebody selling a hoop house. There's farms going out of business, there's people who have backyard hoop houses that bought hoop houses that don't want them anymore, but you have to go dismantle them and bring them back to your house, but you're going to buy one for a fraction of the cost of something new. And most hoop house materials are galvanized steel or stainless steel, and they're going to be perfectly fine to reuse for many, many years. So the first hoop house I purchased was from a farm that was going out of business. And it was 120 feet long, 17 feet wide, round, Quonset style, sort of like a half circle style hoop house. All commercial quality, galvanized steel with stainless steel hardware. And I paid $1,200 for 120 feet. So about $10 a foot of hoop house. I came home and I split it up and I put 40 feet of it together. You can see that over here on the side. That's a 40-foot hoop house. And then I am about to take the rest of it now and build about a 50-foot hoop house on this chunk of land right here. The only thing I had to buy new for this hoop house is the plastic that goes over the top. That comes in rolls of 100 feet, or you can get them very long, but I got about a 30-foot wide piece of plastic, 100 feet long, and it's greenhouse plastic, so it does not degrade in the sun. That chunk of plastic you see on that hoop house has been on there for 9 years. A couple little holes here and there, but you repair it with tape and it lasts. It's supposed to last 4 years. That's 9 years. I also had to buy a little bit of lumber to finish the ends of the hoop house and about $30 worth of stainless steel nuts and bolts hardware. So I probably have about $600 into the 40-foot hoop house, including the plastic and the hardware. The rest of this is going to be under $1,000 worth of materials. So what came with the hoop house that I purchased? I got 31, 32 or so hoops. I got 120 feet times 3 of straight steel purlins that go on the ceiling of the hoop house. I got all of the wooden baseboards, and I got all of the ground posts that go in the ground. I also got miscellaneous hardware, and I got some irrigation supplies and things that were just in the hoop house that they were giving away. So if you have Craigslist or some kind of online classifieds where you live, just search for hoop house, greenhouse, high tunnel, polytunnel, anything like that. And don't forget to search for greenhouse and hoop house and then together, and you're going to find materials like this. Okay, so what's the first thing we need to do? First thing we have to do is mark out our footprint using posts and string and measuring tapes. There's going to be a little bit of math involved, but it's very simple. Okay, so you're out in the middle of your field and you're trying to make a perfect rectangle footprint for your hoop house to sit on, and you want that footprint to have perfectly square corners. All you need to do that are 2 tape measures and 4 posts that you can put in the ground. And then you need to know the width of your hoops and the length that you want to make your hoop house. Now for demonstration purposes, this hoop is 17 centimeters wide, and I'm going to make this hoop house 30 centimeters long. So we know those 2 numbers. What do we have to do to make a perfect rectangle? So to do this, you need to know the Pythagorean theorem, or you can just go to Google. You're going to type in hypotenuse calculator. It's going to come up with this little form here. All you have to do is type in your dimensions. So our A leg here is going to be 17. Our B leg is going to be 30, which leaves a hypotenuse of 34.48. Now what does all that mean? We know this is 17 wide, so we're going to put our hoop house at the rough orientation we want. I want my hoop house to be say in this orientation. I know my hoops are here, so I'm going to measure 17 wide, and I'm going to put a couple pins in the ground. I know these pins are 17 centimeters or feet or whatever they are apart. Next, I've got 2 tape measures. So for demonstration purposes on these tape measures, I've put a mark at 30 centimeters and a mark at 34.48 centimeters. And we just have to attach them to our posts. So this mark here is 30 centimeters. This is 34.48. So let's put this here. So we have 17 centimeters, 30 centimeters, where this intersects with this. This is our hypotenuse, and this is where we put a pin for this end of the hoop house. Then we can just reverse this and measure the other direction. When you have a tape measure, you can do this in the field. 30, 34.48. Where those intersect, we're going to have another pin. And that is a perfect rectangle right there. And that's all there is to it. And that is going to be the same as this, automatically. Perfectly square. Straight down is where my corner post is going to go. So that is the mark. And then I just have to measure and do the same on that side. And then I have a perfect rectangle. So do your measuring, find your hypotenuse, square off your edges, pull your string to the same height all the way around so you know where your ground posts are going to go to. And then it's time to start hammering in ground posts. So that's going to be our first post right here. You want to pull your string the length of the hoop house, and you want it to be the same height at either end. Now the string is to help you line up your posts, but it's also to help you get your posts all to the consistent height. So if that string is tight and you put your posts in on the string and at the same height as the string, you'll know that your hoop house will be level. So I use 4-foot long ground posts buried 2 feet into the ground. So that leaves 2 feet exposed above the ground, which is where I put my string for when I'm hammering in my ground posts. Okay, so we've mapped out our hoop house with the Pythagorean theorem. We have our strings going all the way around. They are marked off every 3 feet where the posts are going to go, and they are all level and at the same height. So this is a level mark, and I'm going to pound all of my ground posts in right to this height of this string, all the way around for the whole hoop house. So I'm using stainless steel 1.25 inch 4-foot long pipes for my ground posts. I'm putting them in about 2 feet in the ground and about 2 feet above the ground. I've got a mark on my string where my first post is going to go. I'm going to put it right here on the ground. Now if your post is a little bit stubborn, rather than pound on this and deform your post, if you have difficult soil, just take a piece of wood and you can go and hammer like that. And that's still a little bit high. Whoops. There we go. There's my string. I know as long as I'm on my mark and that string is moving freely, I'm at the perfect height. So let's do the rest of these. All right, after you have all your ground posts hammered into the ground and everything is square, we're going to put baseboards on the bottom of all of the ground posts. The baseboards touch the ground and they're going to tie all the posts together and make your hoop house one continuous tied together unit. There's 2 holes in each ground post and the baseboard gets bolted right through the posts. I'm using stainless steel stove bolts and 2x12 pressure treated lumber. First I'm going to lay all these out. I'm going to put the bolts through each post and into each board, and then I'm going to add the nuts and tighten everything all up. Okay, once you have your ground posts pounded in and your baseboards are in place, the next step is installing your hoops. This is so easy to do, I'm going to demonstrate doing this while running backwards. Let's do this. So after your hoops are in place, they are just literally sitting on the bolts that are through the ground posts. So they're just being held on by gravity. Now when it is windy, your hoop house will lift in the air, as mine has in the past. And then I learned to lock my hoops down to the ground posts with through bolts. So this right here is the bolt that is holding the hoop up, and this bolt here going this direction is actually going through the hoop and the ground post to keep it from lifting up during a windstorm. You don't need to have one of these on every post, but I have one on about every 3rd or 4th post. Because the posts are all tied together with purlins, the entire structure is kind of one unit, but you want to keep about every 3rd post locked down to a ground post. Alright, after your hoops are all in place, the next step are the purlins. The purlins go perpendicular to the hoops. I use 3 purlins on my hoop houses to help with the snow load and wind and just bracing everything together. First purlin that goes up is the center purlin, and you just got to toss it right up there. So when you're putting your purlins on, I like to use 3 purlins. The outside ones go on the inside of the hoop house, and the center purlin goes on the top. This gives, when the plastic's over here, gives that a little bit of an edge, so snow and rain will sort of shed off this way a little bit easier. Center purlin, outside.